Good morning, students. We are here in the virtual classroom of Standard 9 to read a poem in English, Rain on the Roof by Coates Kinney. At the outset, let me give you a few details about this poet. He is not counted among the great poets, but this poem has survived a long time. So it must be counted as a great poem. I am talking about it later on. I don't personally believe in the life of the poet is very important in discussing poetry. But as well, let me give the bare facts in a nutshell about the poet. Please look at it.
Coates Kinney was born in 1826 in the suburbs of New York. He was a multifaceted personality. He studied law in his college life and was admitted to the bar in the state of Cincinnati in 1856. But he preferred journalism as profession and worked in different newspapers in different states like Cincinnati, Ohio, Illinois, etc. He also served the US Army from 1861 to 1865 with distinguished contribution to it. Kinney was later elected as senator in Ohio in 1882. His poems are collected in two major volumes, Keuka and Other Poems in 1855, and in the later life, Lyrics of the Ideal and the Real. He is not a very significant poet, but this poem particularly, Rain on the Roof, it has indeed stood the test of time for its structural beauty. This popular poem has many times been set to music and sung. Coates Kinney died in Ohio in 1900.
You see, that Coates Kinney, you know that only one of his poems actually survived through the years, because it's a very good poem, and perhaps because it was set to the music, it has a musical ability in it, but we will talk about it later. Let me clarify why I say and insist that a poet's life is not very important to know when we are discussing his or her poetry. What is a poem? Poem is a special way of talking, a special arrangement, a peculiar arrangement of words through which a message has been given or beautiful. 2 points are of essential, 2 points are very essential to make a poem survive. What makes a poem great? That it must have a message that is universal. The message must appeal to all the generations over years, over decades, over centuries even. And it must transcend its appeal must cross over the boundaries of religion, race, nation, creed, etc. It must be universal. And the second point, it must have some beauty. A deep message told beautifully. That is the criteria for a great poet. Not how the poet or the poetess lived in his or her lifetime. In fact, the influence of poet's life can be on his or her poem is only for a few years. But beyond that, the poem has to go through the ages by itself. And sometimes the poet is only known because a lot of poets are there about whom we know next to nothing, but their poem lived on. So we learn that the poet must have been a great soul, a great mind, only because he had something written a beautiful poem and that poem survived. Here in this poem, it's a good poem, must be. We'll see why it's considered a good, beautiful musical poem. So let's first look at the poem itself in intact. Look at your book or look at the screen and write it down.
If you go to the internet, you will see that this poem was originally of 6 stanzas, 6 octet stanzas. But here we are only using the portion prescribed by NCERT for your CBSE course, only the 3 stanzas. Here we are also giving some word meanings which may be new, may be heard for you, but you can stop the screen and write them down. But I suggest that it's better that you go and check with the dictionary by yourself, because at your age this should be done by yourself.
Rain on the roofs of this poem is about rain. But rain can be associated with many feelings, many mood, defined kinds of emotions. Like you see that when we are talking of rain, you remember a lot of new words like this Peter patter is the sound of the raindrops falling, Peter patter, rim-jim. You can say that it's raining cats and dogs. That means a heavy rain. More heavy rain can be called a downpour. All these words, and there are lots more. You can find it over the net or in the dictionary, different words associated with rain.
Here are a few words and phrases which are associated with rain. Pitter patter, drizzle, downpour, torrential rain, raining cats and dogs, raining by bucketfuls. To pay a rain check, it never rains but pours, etc. There are lots more of it. I suggest that you find the meanings of these on your own from the dictionary or the internet, and also use them in your own sentences. And also collect a few more such words and phrases on your own. This is an exercise for you. Here are a few words I am giving here, the meaning. I will be explaining these words very soon, and they are very important for understanding this poem. It is as well you look up these 3 words on yourself in the dictionary: petrichor, melancholy and nostalgia. I will be discussing them very soon in context of this poem.
But rain as an idea is also associated with many things, particularly in our country. The monsoon, the season of monsoon, it comes often as a blessing, often as a curse. If it does not come in time, if it does not come in adequate measure, or if it comes in too much of rain, all spells disaster in the economic life of the farmers, of the agriculturists. It can be a blessing, it can be a curse. But in this way, the rain, and in general, rain always somehow symbolizes a freshness, a newness, a hopefulness. Somewhere it symbolizes youth, rejuvenation, new life. You see, I will show you a small movie clip about how the first rain comes in an Indian village and how the children who are enjoying it, because this clip will show you the way what it is describing actually. Look at this poem of the first rain coming into an Indian village. This book. Feeling I wanted to convey you, because this kind of particular feeling that is associated with the first rain or rainfall in our mind The childish joy of being drenched in the rain. This plays a vital role in this poem. That's why I was showing this clip. Let us learn a few good words. Like petrichor. Petrichor, you know it. The word sounds new, but the idea is not new. Petrichor is that good smell. After a very long dry period, a period of dry weather, the soil becomes dry, barren, and the first rain comes. The soil is shocked. You have noticed a very sweet smell, aroma, fragrance rises after the first rain from the soil. That smell is called petrichor. It brings back memories to the older persons of the youth, of the childhood age when we were enjoying the rainfall. Let's learn one more word. Melancholy. Melancholy, it's a mood. You feel depressed, you feel sad for a long time. That mood is called melancholy. It's different from sadness, ordinary sadness and grief. Ordinary sadness and grief is usually connected with some physical happening, a physical pain or the direct death or some loss suffered by somebody is usually temporary. But melancholy is a sad mood, a sadness, a kind of sadness that is felt only in the heart. It has no physical part, no direct physical bearing upon your heart. It is felt only by the heart, by the soul. That kind of sadness, which is a mood, is called melancholy. We see this word, how these are associated with the poem. And the one more word, that is nostalgia. This word is directly not in the poem. This one is there and this one is also not there, but they are very much associated to understand the poem's beauty. Nostalgia is a feeling when one remembers the old happy days which cannot be regained again. The days that have gone by and we cannot get them back once more. We remember those days in our perhaps sad times, it is sad times now, but we remember the happy days and for a brief period feel happy in spite of being in the know that we cannot get those days back. Let's see a brief clip, moving clip, to make you understand what exactly this feeling of nostalgia is. Please look. The best example I can give you about what nostalgic feeling is. कोई लौटा दे मेरे बीते हुए दिन. Now, only the older persons, you can understand by yourself that only the older persons can feel nostalgic. You cannot at your age. Perhaps when you leave the school and going into to the youth, perhaps you feel a little nostalgic about the carefree days of the childhood. But no one can be really nostalgic until he or she attains the middle age, when he can only look forward to the darker days, and the brighter days are all have been left behind. And this nostalgic feeling, here the poet in this poem, he is living in a city. He is an elder person, otherwise he couldn't have been nostalgic. And we will also see why he is an elder person in explaining the poem. But what happens is that he lives a busy city life, and he is feeling very depressed in his soul. Because the mundane, everyday city life is boring, tiring, exhausting. And one day, suddenly, when the black clouds come, he, in his soul, feels that blackness as if it is darkening his soul, his happiness further. And he feels more melancholy as he walks back to his home. On his way home, he thinks he is drenching in the rain, and he can look forward only to a good night's sleep. And he looking forward to that cozy bed. And then his mood changes slowly as he gets into the bed, feels a little sleepy. Suddenly, from this melancholy feeling, the laden heart, burdened heart, suddenly begins to dream. Feel like dreaming. Dream comes only when the sleep is light. The poet is not completely asleep, but he is remembering those carefree days of childhood when his parents, caring parents, his siblings, brothers and sisters were all alive. He was looking back to those days in his dreamy fancies. We call it a trip. Down the memory lane. There are lots of highways in the memory that all the hustle bustle of everyday life, it throws the highways of the memory. But there must be some back alley, back lane in the memory, when sometimes our mind goes back, usually during the reverie in our dream. It goes back in the past, and for some time relaxes. The poet in the last stanza, he takes a trip down the memory lane, and his happiness, his rejuvenation comes back. And all the while, it is being done by the accompanying pitter-patter sound of the rain. Actually, this word pitter-patter, ring-ching, this sound, it plays a vital role, because the poet never uses the full word pitter-patter. That means the sound of the rain. But he uses the word patter. You see, the word patter has also another connotation. It symbolizes pitter, but it is all right. But patter also means to talk on incessantly, to distract somebody's mind. So here the rain is pattering, it makes the usual sound. But as if it is the nature is talking in the voice of rain to distract the poet's mind from his everyday grief, everyday sadness, boredom, and take him down his trip through the memory lane. Let's look at the slide. Let's start with the basic things first. this poem structure. This poem has 3 stanzas of 8 lines each. A 8-line stanza is called the octet. So this poem is comprised of 3 octets. Let's find the lines here. If you have forgotten, you can always go back to the introduction to poetry video I made. In that video I specially discussed how to find out the rhyme scheme of a poem. It is better that you should practice it. I am doing one stanza for you, the rest of the stanzas you do for yourself, and also learn it better from that video. When the human shadows over, a sound we denoted by A, over all the starry spheres, yes. That is a new sound, so we assign the small letter B and the melodic darkness S. Another new sound, we assign the small letter C. Gently weeps in rainy tears, that B sound, fierce tears. So we assign B. What a best to press the pillow, another new sound. We have already assigned A, B, C, so we must assign this new sound D. Of a quartet chamber bed, E. And while listening to the patter, F. And of the soft rain over head bed, it is E. So the rhyme scheme of this poem is ABCB, DE, FE. Practicing by yourself. There is hardly any tough words in this poem. Bliss means blessing, and you know that pattern I have already discussed. Quartet you know, chamber bed. Few figures of speech I must discuss here. You see this humid, notice this H sound, humid over. This S sound, starry speaks. We call these figures of speech when a particular sound at the beginning or a particular letter at the beginning of words are repeated over a very short space. Not over the long area. In a very short space, one sound is repeated at the beginning of the words. We call it alliteration. Alliteration. I have showed you humid over starry spheres. There are other lots of examples of this kind in this poem. You try to find the other examples of alliteration by yourself. Second, this poem also has personification. What is personification? Personification is, it has also another name, anthropomorphic. Metaphor, such a metaphor that morphs, changes a non-living thing into an human-like passionate being. When an abstract idea or a non-living thing is assigned with the qualities of a human being, we call that kind of figures of speech personification. You will see that here's all this rainfall, every feeling associated with rain, it is as if personified, it is feeling it is crying, it is dropping tears like a human being, it is feeling melancholy as a mood. How can it? So in this poem, rain, nature is personified. And another small part, melancholy darkness. We call this transferred epithet. Transferred epithet is such a figure of speech. When one adjective epithet, it is transferred from the person or thing it actually belongs to another person. Like here you see darkness. The darkness cannot be melancholy. That in that way it is personified. That this is personified because it is feeling melancholy mood like a person. It is personification. But in another way of looking at it, actually poet is feeling melancholy. But the adjective melancholy is transferred from the poet to the darkness. It is also a transferred epithet. Here gently weeps. You see that it is nature is weeping, rain is weeping. It is personification. But this gently, this word, it has been transferred from the soul of the mood of the poet to the rain is weeping. So, these are the basic figures of speech you will encounter in this poem. I have given you some example. In the other stanzas, you find it by yourself. Let me give you a slide on this, what I have just taught.
Alliteration is the use of the same letter or sound at the beginning of words that are close together, not very far from each other. Examples are starry spheres, busy being, etc. Onomatopoeia is use of words containing sounds similar to the noises they describe. Like you say, hish, hush, thud, tinkle, pitter-patter, etc. Transferred epithet. Another name for it is hypallage. It is the figure of speech in which the syntactic relationship, the relationship of the parts of speech among themselves, that is called syntactic relationship. Here the syntactic relationship between the two terms is interchanged. Like melancholy darkness, the darkness is not melancholy. The poet is feeling melancholy and the adjective of the poet has transferred to the darkness. Same way, dreamy fancies, etc. Personification, its another name is anthropomorphic metaphor. Anthro means human being and morphic regarding change. A metaphor that changes a non-human or non-living thing or feeling into as if a human being. The attribution of a personal nature or human characteristics to something non-human or an abstract quality. Like you see, we say the flowers are smiling. In Hindi we say dharti mai. Gently weaves, recollections weave their air threads, etc. are some examples from this poem. I have just discussed a few of the examples because I believe that at your age, you need only to be guided to find the rest of uses of such figures of speech on your own from the poem. Please also take this finding the rest of the figures of speech used as an exercise also.
So now the first stanza is very simple. The poet, I told you, in this stanza, poet is actually, he was feeling very sad and grievous in his heart because of his urban lifestyle, which is very taxing upon the soul. And suddenly a wet evening, drenching evening on his way home, he felt more melancholy. And in his thinking, he contemplates that it would be a blessing if I can go back and just lie on the pillow and have a good sleep. Well, that is somehow is the only way my heart can be lighted. When the humid shadow over all the starry spheres, and the melancholy darkness gently weeps in rainy tears, what a bliss to press the pillow of Portis chamber bed and lie listening to the patter of the soft rain overhead. You understand it's not very difficult, but please try to find out the figures of speech. Here is one figure of speech I just mentioned. Can you find it? This is the kind of exercise you should do while reading this poem, right? Let's go to the second stage. A few new words here. Tinkle. Tinkle is the sound of a metallic sound, small sound, or perhaps the sound made by two glasses. That's the kind of a tinkle. It's a figures of speech in itself, you know. We call it onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a figures of speech. When we use a word, the sound of which actually describes the noise it makes. Tinkle. Even as you pronounce the word, you can hear the actual noise made by two glasses or the raindrops on a metallic surface. Singles. Singles is the tile, wooden tile of the European cottage, roof of the European cottage. Fancy, you know that half dreaming. We are in such a state that we are not completely asleep, but we are feeling drowsy, and this kind of thinking is fancy. Fanciful thinking is which has very little relationship with the actual life. And also this patter, pitter patter, all these are onomatopoeic. It also imitates the sound of rainfall. I am showing you another figures of speech, dreamy fancies. The fancy cannot dream. Somebody else is feeling dreamy, and that is transferred to the fancies. You deduce what figures of speech is that one by yourself. I have taught you. There is another new word, oof, air threads. It's an image taken from the loom. You know how we put the threads into a loom, and it comes and goes, words and oofs. Look at the picture. You know this oof. As in the memory, it is so turbulent, continuously working words and oofs. But the threads of this memory, nostalgic threads, it is made up of air, no actual. It is all imaginary, so it is air threads. What happens is now in the second stanza, the poet is in bed. He has his tired soul, tired body, exhausted. He are trying to sleep, listening to the sound better. As if the nature is talking to distract his busy mind, busy being. There is no time. Busy being is another figures of speech, be. You understand, you deduct them yourself. The poet's soul is so busy, it is very difficult for him to quietly sleep. But slowly that incessant sound of dripping sound of the rain, pattering of the nature, it is putting a solace in his mind, on his soul. He is feeling drowsy. And the reality is going away from his mind. As the mind is working like a loom, the threads of memory becoming less actual, more of air, more of imagination. And these are the lots of recollections coming back to him gradually, and he is going down into the, this is half dreaming. We call it reverie. That is a half dreaming. In Hindi, we call it tandra, when you are not fully asleep, but you are having a dreamy feeling. Actually, dream never happens in a deep sleep. It happens when you are going into a deep sleep or coming out of it. That is called a rapid eye movement, REM, that stage of sleep. And this position in the second stanza, the poet is having began that trip down the memory lane, which will actually be in the third stage. Please look at it. This is where the real trip down the memory lane starts. Because now the poet is totally dissociated from his actual everyday adult life. He has gone back to the childhood days. He is thinking that night of rain in which he, along with his brothers and sisters perhaps, they are sleeping so blissfully, yet feeling that their mother has come to have a last look before putting on the light and going out. Now the mother is no more. Now in memory comes my mother as she used to be years ago, the days बीते हुए दिन, वो दिन आप कभी नहीं आएगा, those days. To regard the darling dreamers, yet mind find the figures of speech. In those days, the poet was a child. He used to dream a reality, not having a reverie, half dream like today, a fantasy. Those dreams were real. And now, the reality begs to have some dream. And after the darling favorite dreamers, here is an old English word, it means before. Here means before. Before she left until the dawn. Here is a very subtle association, dawn. Dawn brings the sun, and the mother has died. In the Christian atmosphere, actually the word son is also related, somehow associated with the Son of God. That is the Jesus Christ. Perhaps here the poet is alluding, referencing, a very distant reference, that the mother has died, the poet is living, but that life of the poet is living now, it is worse than death. Perhaps the mother has gone to the heaven, he is in front of the Christ or the Son of the God. And one day when I will die, actually I will wake up to that Son, that God. It's a very distant reference, but as well you may learn it, all figure fond look on me. Actually there are, that brothers and sisters sleeping together, but why poet is feeling that mother is specially fond of him, as if she loves him or her better. Mother loves every child, all the same. But of course, the opposite true. Every child feels that the mother loves him or her more than the others. As a list is also an old use, poetic use. List means listening, to listen. It is shortened for the sake of the meter. To this refrain is that part of a song which is repeated again and again. We in Hindi call it sthai. The sthai part of the that part is repeated throughout a song again and again after an interval, which is played upon the singer in a pattern of the beat. You see that by itself the poem is hardly anything what we call a great message or something like that. Yet that poem has survived for such a long time. I told to survive throughout the ages over a century here, and also transcend the barriers of language, country, religion, etc. Have an appeal, universal appeal for everybody over the years. The poem must have a message, good message, and the beauty of his body. Here the poet's message is not very great, but everyday message, but it has message is there. Message is that you enjoy your childhood in such a responsible way that when you actually grow up and have an exhausting life, your existence becomes hardened, boring. At that time, when you look back, when you go down the trip through the memory lane, you feel very nice. Have such a childhood which you can look back upon in your old age and be very proud. Yes, I spent my childhood very happily, joyously, and being courteous to everybody, being responsible to my parents. It's an ideal childhood. Nobody could have lived a better childhood. For that, you must live your life from now on in that way that you can be proud of your childhood when you look back at it in your old age. That is the message. But this poem has another speciality. I told you that whether this poem was set to a music and that survived, but I don't believe in that kind of music. Music and poetry are very akin, they are relatives. But a poem, true great poem, has its own way of reading, own style of reading. So, in the end I will show you that perhaps this poem has survived for one other reason, that it has a meter in its beauty, its beautiful meter, that transcends all the barriers of language, country, etc., etc. Just by imitating the natural sound pattern in its meter, it evokes the mood of a monsoon rain everywhere. I try to convey it to you through the reading of the poem. I am suggesting that you read aloud with me so that you enjoy your language better. Please let us read this poem together and to find the innate music in it that transcends the barrier of time and generations. Please.
When the humid shadows hover over all the starry spheres, and the melancholy darkness gently whisks in rainy tears, what a bliss to press the pillow of a cottage chamber and lie listening to the patter of the soft rain overhead. Let's repeat it once more. When the humid shadows hover over all the starry spheres, and the melancholy darkness gently whisks in rainy tears, what a bliss to press the pillow of a cottage chamber bed and lie listening to the patter of the soft rain overhead. Every tinkle on the shingles has an echo in the heart, and 1,000 dreamy fancies into busy being start, and 1,000 recollections with their earthrace into oof, as I listen to the patter of the rain upon the roof. Let's repeat it once more. Every tinkle on the shingles as an echo in the heart, and 1,000 dreamy fancies into busy being stirred, and 1,000 recollections with their earthrace into oof, as I listen to the patter of the rain upon the roof. And now, in memory comes my mother as she used in years agone to regard the darling dreamers, ere she left them till the dawn. Oh, I feel her fond look on me as I listen to this refrain, which is played upon the shingles by the patter of the rain. Once more. Now in memory comes my mother as she used in years agone to regard the darling dreamers, ere she left them till the dawn. Oh, I feel her fond look on me as I listen to this refrain, which is played upon the shingles by the patter of the rain.
So, we have come to the end of this class. Let's call it a day now. We'll come back soon and meet again. Till then, stay home, stay safe, stay strong, stay studious, and don't forget to do the homework.